Don't watch this. The 1-star rating is true because is not Predator anymore.
Okay.
It's Disney teen drama for children and too much fantasy.
Too much fantasy? They
Nope.
misspell that?
The small girl is new Predator now. She is better and harder in this galaxy.
What, this is still Earth.
It's still
What?
Earth.
In the next movie, she would capture the Predator ship and fly to Predator Planet to kill all them.
What?
Don't give him any ideas.
That was
though.
a 1-star review from imdb.com. So, full disclosure, a lot of the 1-star reviews are extremely sexist.
Oh,
That
yeah,
doesn't
I'm
shock
sure.
me at all.
I think a lot of people forget that the first Terminator was killed by a waitress.
Hello and welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm Ryan, joined as always by Andrew
Hello.
and Steven.
Hey there.
In this episode, we're reviewing the newest entry in the Predator franchise. That's right, we're talking about Prey.
Which is a really weird thing to say because there's been a lot of them.
There's probably way too many.
There definitely is. I rewatched most of them before this.
I'm
and,
sorry.
It was bad.
Yeah,
it was tough.
We actually kind of go up a scale here because Andrew, I think you've only seen one.
I've only seen the first
I've only
one.
seen the first. I've seen
Well, now I've seen the second one, or
well,
for me,
the fifth or sixth one, really?
sixth,
Oof.
I think,
Hold on.
No, I
Predator
saw someone
2.
calling it Predator 5, I think.
because you have Predator, Predator 2, Alien versus Predator, Predators.
Alien versus Predator Requiem, and then The Predator. So this is the 6th.
This is the sixth?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, either way, I've seen the first two and parts of others that I turned off because, and this one, obviously.
Before we get into all that, one thing I think we can all agree on is that the dog was a very fun part of this movie. Prey.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
And,
everybody loves the dog.
The dog, which does not die.
That's
in
the
this
only
movie, by
spoiler
the
you
way.
get
Yeah.
going in.
The dog does not die. So if you're on the fence about watching this because of that, go for it.
Yeah,
You're
you're
good.
safe.
Yep, it's
Uh,
totally fine.
But thinking about the dog, she was a very good animal companion in this. So we want to talk about other sidekicks and companions in media and what our favorites are
That are not people.
that are not people. We're not
Yeah.
talking about like Batman and Robin. We're
Yeah.
talking about like the dog in Prey.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Andrew, why don't you lead us off? What is
Okay,
your favorite
Cool. So,
sidekick?
me being me, I always pick the weird ones, right? So
Sure.
I picked Aro from Gundam.
Okay, explain.
Oh, no. So I
the little
under-
beach ball that floats around and is a
Yes.
robot? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, this is a just a little like relatively bouncy ball that can also kind of float. Has little like flappy ear wings.
Yeah, it's
And,
very strange.
It was essentially made just as a toy by the original main character,
the whole,
Amuro
no,
Ray.
hold on, stop it. The whole series was made as the toy.
Sure.
Just within,
Yeah,
within
okay,
the
yeah, but-
universe.
Yeah, but so you have Haro, which is he's just this little green ball that kind of
Yeah.
floats around and stuff. However, it is smart enough to help out the main characters every once in a while by basically being a distraction. To
Okay.
like if a character wants to try and basically sneak into a mobile suit to go fight for whatever reason, Haro will gladly be the distraction to the commanding officers, or just kind of get in the way of things.
Yeah.
And Haro actually kind of lasts throughout almost the entire Gundam franchise
Mhm.
in one form or another. So,
So was he in Gundam Wing?
I know.
Okay.
no, like Universal Century, so the main timeline.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't remember seeing.
He actually appears outside of it as well.
Yes.
There is a Haro in 00,
hmm
and he does more than just provides comedy or whatever.
Yeah.
He actually helps. Like he is like a computer boost for the Dynames.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he's like part of like the sniping program or something
Yeah.
like that.
But yeah, so it's kind of fun because as you go through the Gundam franchise, you can kind of like catch whenever they pick up a new
Mhm.
Haro. Sometimes it's the original Haro, sometimes it's a replica, because basically Amuro was so popular from basically the first series
Yeah.
in universe that basically they made replicas of his Haro.
Yeah, like
Um,
his like wealth comes from like designing and selling the design. Or
Yeah.
something
So it's like buying Jordan sneakers. You're buying
yeah,
like,
pretty
the
much.
Amuro Ray.
Amuro
Haro.
Ray's Haro, yeah.
That's a mouthful right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was my companion.
Cool. Steven, what about you?
Well, I also stayed animated, but I did not go for someone who spans multiple series, although he should have spanned more than one movie. So we're going with Mulan's Mushu.
Oh, cool.
And if the live action Mulan had maybe included Mushu, it might have helped it quite a bit.
Cowards.
So this is Eddie Murphy at his peak, but also, kind of toned down, censored for Disney, obviously. Because it always fascinates me how they find these comedians who are just, straight R-rated on stage. And like, yeah, we should put him in a Disney movie.
Well, it's the same thing with like Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Like
or,
his stand-up was very vulgar.
Full House too. Bob Saget.
Bob
like his
Saget.
stand-up. Like I
Yeah.
don't know. They're like, you know what? We're gonna make you more popular by not desensitizing, censoring, whatever. Anyways, moving on. Just a hilarious. I mean, it's a really serious subject. Like there's war and death, and you really need what he brings, which is again the comedic relief side of things, and kind of a opposing voice to Mulan. Not in the sense of like, well, he's going to overrule her, but he is going to stand in the back and be like, well, that just doesn't make sense. Why are we here again?
Yep.
Yeah.
How could you miss? He was right there.
Well, I think that obviously, the straight man, the comedy guy, dynamic is really cool. And like, I never saw the live action Mulan, but I assume not having that probably.
There's a lot of problems.
You missed nothing.
And that's why I didn't watch it. And that's why I still haven't watched it. I'm not in any rush to see it.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite parts of the Mulan animated film is whenever she uses him to basically light the the cannon, which I thought was just such a fun little.
She can't find the flint.
Yeah,
She just grabs him.
She grabs him and rips him like a ripcord.
Oh my God.
Starting a lawnmower.
All right. Well,
Ryan?
mine is a throwback. This is a classic, and some people would call this the proto Baby Yoda.
Okay.
I went with Gizmo from Gremlins.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. The proto.
I've never seen Gremlins, so.
Oh, wow.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gremlins is wild. I
Kids
saw
movie.
Gremlins.
Also a horror movie.
Yeah. As a kid, and loved Gizmo. I had a little a stuffed toy of Gizmo who.
Mhm.
Is he just the one that you just see like
Yeah,
on all
the brown and white.
Yeah.
pattern.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So he's the safe gremlin. But he's not a gremlin. He's a safe one.
Oh, okay.
Essentially, like
Mogwai.
without
They're called
spoiling too
Mogwai.
much,
Yeah.
like just to get into the basics. Yeah, like he's a Mogwai. He's this little furry creature that the main character in this movie, Billy, his dad, brings home, and there's like strict rules. Don't ever get him wet. Don't feed him after midnight and all this kind of stuff. Of course, somebody does.
Everything.
And
like
then
that
all
happens.
these other gremlins start popping out of him, and they are evil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they go from furry and cute to being like lizard scale gremlins, and they mess with everything. And it's basically a horror comedy.
Okay.
Like they get
Yeah.
into some hijinks, and the gremlins are smoking cigarettes, and they're at the bar like asking for more drinks.
The
and like,
80s were a very weird
oh yeah,
time.
Wild.
Gremlins 2 is a fever dream, but still great. Worth checking out if you like the first one. It's not as good of as solid of a movie, but Gizmo himself in it is great. As a kid, I loved this little guy, and at the very end, he gets in like a toy sports car.
Well, it was just a straight advertisement for kids. Go buy this RC car that Gizmo drove.
Yeah.
But that was he's my my sidekick.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Well, now let's talk a little bit about Prey. Prey was released directly to streaming on Hulu on August 5th, which I believe it was because of the Disney 20th Century Fox merger.
Yeah, because they got merged in, and there was a lot of
there was a specific
language
contract clause where if it went to theater, it would have gone to like HBO Max for streaming release.
Right.
Yep.
And this movie has had like a 4-year journey to get to be released, basically. And there was like a lot of different like versions that like Disney wanted it cut down to PG-13 at one point.
Ooh.
And then there's a lot of back and forth, so it doesn't surprise me. But yeah, it was released directly to Hulu.
Which is interesting too, because once you get outside the US and the UK, Hulu doesn't exist. So elsewhere in the world, it's on Disney Plus.
which is just such a weird thing to think about.
Yeah, it's weird that Disney is like at home. It's this like wholesome like,
and they're just like, nah, put R-rated stuff.
but
in
whatever.
there.
over
Yeah,
there.
just throw it out there.
Directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who did 10 Cloverfield Lane, which either
That's,
you've seen
that's
that.
the one where she's in like the bunker thing or whatever, and it's more of like a
Found
thriller
footage kind of thing.
No. This is more of
That's
like
the
a
first
thriller
one.
with John Goodman.
Yeah.
And then it just happens to be a Cloverfield film.
So
Gotcha.
I really liked 10 Cloverfield Lane, and it was one of the first times. Like, so the first time I actually ever saw anything Dan Trachtenberg did was he did a short film almost a decade ago, and it's a Portal film. And you've probably seen it if you're a fan of Portal, the game.
Yeah.
It's the inside the Aperture Labs. It's the actors trying to escape, and they do all the special effects.
I do remember this.
Oh, yeah.
That was his first like,
Huh.
oh, this watch out for this guy. he's doing stuff. And then he went on to do, he's done episodes of Black Mirror. He's done episodes of The Boys. He's done a lot of like television like that.
He's got a good, it's not movie background, but he's got a good background there.
10 Cloverfield Lane is like the biggest movie I think he's done before this. But in that movie, I liked it a lot because it was like the first Cloverfield was like a found footage thing.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's like almost like I wish they hadn't named it 10 Cloverfield Lane.
So you just didn't know.
I wish the twist had, because after watching it, I thought it was great because it's one of those like most of the movie takes place in one room. But the way he directed it, in my opinion, was very good. Like he did a really good job of like making the most use out of like the single set, which is a small group of actors type thing.
An interesting shift because when we're looking at Prey, this was not the single set. They had a gorgeous setting.
Yeah. A sweeping landscape.
Yeah, huge mountain vistas, valleys, rivers, etc.
Oh yeah.
Not too much Great Plains, but that's okay. We'll get into that.
We won't get too deep into that. I mean, we'll let it slide a little bit.
Well, there's a little bit of the production issues. They were originally going to shoot in like a different part of Texas, and then something happened there, and then they ended up going to Canada, and there was a lot of like back and forth on where they could actually film. So that was kind of part of that.
I'm sure a lot of the differences that we may or may not have with like the actual American history for the Native Americans, where they were, what they did, that kind of thing, like it probably was almost locked into kind of like what the film already was by the time they're like, oh, well, now we have to change locations. Right. We can't change everything else.
That was probably, Like, and again, there's a lot of stuff that like is kind of rumor and speculation, but that was one of the big things in its journey to getting made was like they had to like switch locations a few times.
Production woes are very real.
Oh yeah, and especially around COVID with this being a 4-year span. But one of the things that's cool to point out is they did get permission and kind of like I guess a blessing from the Canada's First Nations, so the Native American tribes there, to shoot on Native American land. So that was really cool, and obviously. I think we're all in agreement here. They look really good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that some of the best shots in this movie are like the sweeping vistas and the landscapes. Even some of the drone shots they do, like, from top down in this movie are really cool. It's a lot of good, like, visual setting in this movie.
The visual feel for me felt a lot kind of like Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah.
That's a compliment. I mean, that's what I want out of this kind of movie. Big, sweeping, misty mountains with some tree, evergreens, that kind of stuff.
So this was written by Patrick Ason, I think I'm saying that right, and Dan Trachtenberg. And Dan, obviously, I think he co-wrote 10 Cloverfield Lane, but other than that, doesn't have a ton of writing credits. But Patrick is mostly known for TV shows, like the Amazon Jack Ryan show, Wayward Pines, stuff like that. Yeah. So I haven't seen a lot of the stuff that he's written, but it feels like he had a decent... both these guys feel like they don't have a ton of huge feature film credits. Neither do any of the actors. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Like, so this stars Amber Mid-Thunder.
Which is such a cool name.
Yeah.
I know.
Because Amber could be just such a basic name, honestly, but then you put it with Mid-Thunder, and you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah. It also stars Dakota Beavers, who plays Tabe.
The names are so good.
This is his first acting role. Across the board.
Job. Which he did. He did a good job.
Yeah, like he's a musician. He's like auditioned for a couple of things, but this is like straight to like a legit role. Like,
he kind of looks like one of those dudes who just shows up with the guitar.
Anyways, here's Wonderwall.
No, it's not. So did Amber? I didn't notice. Did she have other credits prior to this?
So she's in basically a lot of B movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
And TV shows, but the two to note are Legion.
FX's Legion.
And then CW's Roswell, New Mexico. And then Prey now.
Yeah, definitely her biggest starring role.
And it also stars Dane DeLiegro as the Predator. And this is also his first movie. Which I thought he did a pretty good job.
There's not really a lot of speaking roles with
the
no,
Predator,
but
he's just a tall,
I think to embody the physicality of
he's definitely
that Predator. Another thing that I didn't realize till I started looking at some of the behind the scenes stuff was that like when he's wearing the Predator costume, the front of the face with the mask is actually the top of his head.
Yeah, it's well, you have to be 7 feet tall for that.
And so
no one really is.
His eyes were basically looking out the neck. And so when he was looking forward, he was always like tilting his head down in every scene. And he had to hold like 11 pounds of prosthetics on his neck.
Wow.
Ooh. Like imagine if you had like an 11-pound hat and you had to look down all day. So I was like, wow.
He's got just like the neck muscles. He's like Goku.
Yeah. And also
at all times.
They filmed during like the summer and he's wearing this giant, prosthetic suit.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was.
Well, of course,
pretty
if
rough.
you're filming in the summer in Canada, maybe he's the best off because mosquitoes can't get you through the prosthetics.
They always find a way.
Oh, gosh.
All right, so a plot summary for Prey is it's an all-new entry in the Predator franchise set 300 years ago. Prey tells the story of a young Comanche woman named Naru, a fierce and highly skilled warrior who stalks and ultimately confronts a highly evolved alien predator with a technologically advanced arsenal. All right, so each of us rated this movie across 5 categories: spectacle, performance, score, plot, and entertainment. We then took these scores and ground them up on a rock to make a medicinal paste that we call the overall score. Our score for Prey is an 8.
Yeah,
That's solid.
I feel that is a very respectable.
That's a warranted score.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did everybody think about Prey?
I thought it was fantastic.
Okay.
I loved just the general feel of the film. Now, granted, I've only seen the first one. First one was fun.
Yeah.
And I guess in my mind, I've never really thought the Predator franchise as a horror franchise.
Sure.
Just it was
Absolutely.
just always an action thriller to me.
Yeah.
But again, I'm like, it's one of those things where the second you add horror as one of the keywords, I check out and I don't watch it.
Right.
So, so I know that this one, I knew that we were going to review it, obviously, but then going into this, I was kind of worried that it was going to be a little bit too gory for me, like too
Sure.
violent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, like it didn't feel like it was too much.
Okay.
Like there was like 1 or 2 deaths in the thing that was
Yeah.
like, ooh, that's a little bit much, but it was kind of also entertaining. So,
Yeah, it never crossed that line
And-
into being just gross for the sake
Exactly,
of just
yeah.
gross.
Gratuitous, yeah.
Mhm.
And I know Andrew and I both kind of sit in roughly the same realm in terms of what we do and don't want to see on screen.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I was fine. I know, Lauren, my wife, was definitely doing the watching through her hands things for
Right.
is it over kind of thing. 'Cause
Yeah.
there are definitely some pretty gruesome deaths.
I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I think it's easily the second best Predator movie behind the original, obviously. And I went back and watched most of the Predator movies. I rewatched Predator, Predator 2, Predators, Alien versus Predator. I did not watch Alien versus Predator Requiem because I care about my life and I have
It's terrible.
things to do.
Just don't.
And I did not rewatch The Predator, which is the Shane Black movie from a few years ago. Shane Black appeared in the first Predator. He's one of the main cast of the guy. He's like the first guy that gets killed.
Oh, okay.
He's the guy with the glasses.
Oh,
He's the
yeah,
one that keeps trying to tell the jokes.
Yeah.
Well, isn't the Predators kind of like a big tonal shift too, where it's kind of almost comedy?
It feels like, and I don't know the history of it, but it feels like studio meddling because there's a
Yeah.
lot of jokes
Mhm.
that feel like they were reshoots. It feels like they had a movie and the studio was like,
That's way too dark.
we need quips. So they
Yeah.
went back and re-recorded like certain scenes. But The Predator, terrible. Don't ever watch it. The thing that all these movies get wrong that Prey gets right is that concept of taking it back to just a single predator
Yes.
and it's about survival.
So
You know.
the one thing that I really enjoyed about this film was the scale.
Yeah.
So like you have these big, massive, sweeping landscapes and everything like that, but the actual story and the action takes place in such a very small cast, essentially.
in a window of time too. It's just a day or two.
Yeah, that you don't run into a lot of the problems that generally a lot of prequel or sequels kind of run into, where they try and one up themselves.
Mhm.
Right.
Where
Yeah.
this was back to the basics.
Yes.
Yes.
And this is a very small scale thing, and you have one main character that has to do this, and you have some supporting characters, but out the gate they're all probably gonna die.
Hey, there's somebody. We should go tell her about spoilersintendedpodcast.com.
1, 2, 3, not it.
Not it.
Ah, dang. Okay, I'll do it. Excuse me there. Do you have a second to talk about spoilersintendedpodcast.com? Oh!
Tell her about the Discord.
Okay, I'll get to it. Okay. So we have a Discord where listeners and people can jump in there and be a part of the conversation.
Be sure to tell her about Patreon.
Okay. So we have a Patreon that has. Okay, the Patreon has lots of tiers. You can support us. It's a great way to. Okay.
Don't forget all the other content.
I mean, she gets it, right? You get it, right? Like it's a website. It's spoilersintendedpodcast.com. You go there. It's got links and all the other content. I don't think she has a computer. Do you hear that? I don't remember the spoiler wall sounding like this. What are these? Do you guys have a laser pointer or something? What are these dots? All right, that means we are now past the spoiler wall. So it's all spoilers all day long.
All
here on
the
out.
time.
Okay, so let's start to get into, do you have any spoiler-free or spoiler-filled thoughts at the top before we get into scores? Anybody?
I'm glad the dog did not die.
Same.
I was
Very sad.
I was very worried basically the whole film.
When at the very, one of the earlier scenes when the dog's tail gets caught in the trap and it yelps off screen, I was like, oh no.
no.
I was like, not like this.
No.
Not like this. Yeah, I was really worried. And throughout the whole, every time the dog showed up, I was like, get away from the bear. Get away from the predator. Go somewhere safe, dog.
Don't bark at the predator. Just run away.
Yeah.
Please live your lives.
I will also say I'm glad that the only animals that were killed, one are all CGI, of course, but then the fact that it was all animals that could fight back.
Yeah, they were actively being predators.
There was never, like, they didn't kill horses
Right.
or anything like that. They didn't.
And it makes when they kill the bison even more impactful of like, what kind of monster did this? They were Frenchmen.
The human. Doggone French people.
The other thing too is I think it again goes back to the first Predator of the Predator is like looking for a challenge. It's like, in some of the other Predator movies where they lose their way, is it like the Predator just becomes like a stand-in for Jason Voorhees. He's just killing anything. And it's like, no, the Predator is supposed to be going after
challenges.
a challenge. It's for the sport.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get into some scores.
Yeah.
Andrew, what did you give Spectacle?
So I gave Spectacle an 8.
Okay.
Nice.
I thought the cinematography was honestly fantastic. Like the introduction of drone technology into the filming industry
It helps so much.
So nice because you can get really interesting shots of like complete, like direct bird's eye view of an actor going through the forest, and oh man, you just get some really cool stuff. However, the one thing that what knocked it for me was the unfortunate use of a lot of CGI.
Yeah.
With the blood effects were pretty bad.
I
Pretty
would
rough.
loved some practical blood in this movie.
And then I understand why they had to use CGI animals, like for the rattlesnake, the wolf, and everything, like because you can't obviously kill one.
They didn't use CGI for the wolf the whole way.
The whole way.
It was absolutely a dog, and you could absolutely tell it was having the time of its life running through the field.
But same thing with like the mountain lion and the bear. There's just like the CGI probably could have used an extra like 6 months worth of massaging. I think.
Or a little more budget thrown at it.
Yeah,
maybe.
Well, so I'm just gonna go ahead and jump in.
Yeah,
I gave it a 9.
Oh wow, nice.
Well, one, the scenery, like I'm gonna rate it really highly. For this.
The Alberta mountains are amazing.
Like the commitment to going to the place, doing the thing. You already brought up drones, which not only is it way better for budgets, right? Helicopters are expensive to fly.
Oh, yeah.
You can fit a drone way closer than you could ever fit a helicopter.
Yeah.
And you can get some really interesting shots. Now, just before you go any further, I definitely think that drone technology is also a crutch that a lot of newer films, and this is not one of them, but I think a lot of newer films and newer directors use too much.
Yeah,
As an example is The Gray Man, if you haven't seen that yet. They use the drone footage way too much in that.
Yeah.
And that's a fair
Some of those
assessment.
shots in The Gray Man were good.
They're
but
good, but some of them are also very
restraint
bad.
is what the problem
you
is.
need the interesting shot for spice, right? We're not dumping a whole thing of salt into this meal. Just a little bit is enough, right? So for me, my main knock was going to be on CGI, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, on some levels, sure, there's this idea of, maybe it needs 6 more months. But I think really they committed to a really great location, shooting almost entirely natural light. The actual Predator was not in a black leotard with white spots. He had full prosthetics.
Yep.
They committed all this way to that. And there is no way when you have that much real life on screen that fitting a CGI cougar 3 feet from your main character is going to work, period.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of directors could really take a great note. And it's hilarious to me because it wasn't done on purpose. But if you go back to Jaws and Spielberg, and the stupid animatronic shark did not stop breaking. So they had to shoot everything from the shark's perspective instead, and it made it this really good terror film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of directors need to take that note. And can you fix it in post? Sure. Don't. just limit it, keep it off screen, and just let
Yeah.
it be the horror to the side. And I think you would benefit better.
Well, so, and this is just kind of just piling on here. So the original Alien, the reason why the alien's not in the film that much, one, because the suit was absolutely a horror
That is
to keep
awful
on,
to walk
Sure,
around
yeah.
with.
but it's also the fact that the technology at the time,
Mhm.
like, is just a dude in a latex suit.
Yeah.
And so Ridley Scott has to go through and make the film as terrifying as possible
Mhm.
without the actual use of you seeing the
Right,
alien.
you-
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it amps it up a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, at this point in the sixth movie in the Predator franchise, we all know what the Predator's about.
hmm
So you're never going to get the effect from the first one where it was just this weird thing off in the distance going at you.
Right.
Like you're never going to have that feel again. It just
I think
you
they
know-
did a pretty good job in this one though, because in the first one, you have like it's like stages of reveals. You
Yeah.
get like
yeah,
there's something in the woods. Then you see there's something that's like wavy lines and invisible in the woods. Then you get it like uncloaked but still in a mask, and
Yep.
then you finally get the mask
Mhm.
off full Predator. So you get like 4 stages of like,
and
and
they,
in this one, I think you still get like we know what it is because it's a Predator
We
movie,
just know,
but
yeah.
like it still looks different. Like the
new
camouflage looks
mask,
different, and
yeah.
then the pieces of it you start to kind of see leaking through.
Yep.
yeah,
Is different, and then when it finally does reveal, it's like, whoa, this is a weird looking Predator.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
then again, the same thing with the mask off. It almost,
hmm
I think they did a pretty good job for people going into it knowing that. It's
Oh,
a
for
Predator
sure.
movie.
they,
yeah,
they followed the formula well. It's more like I don't have a complaint with the CGI on the Predator. It's really the other creatures that were just
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you know what a bear looks like.
Yeah, I know what a bear. I
Yeah.
know what a mountain lion. I know what a
Yeah.
rattlesnake.
Well, I think a
so-
lot of that too is they didn't use a ton of CG for the Predator. It was a dude
right.
in a
Yeah,
suit.
so it really
yeah.
stands out.
Yeah.
What did you give it?
So I'm gonna go the lowest of everybody. I gave it a 7.
Okay.
Woo,
Now, I thought the scenery was shot fantastically.
Mhm.
Obviously, we've been over that. I think what dinged it the most for me was the CG
Mhm.
and the CG blood.
Yeah, the CG blood was
Yeah.
unfortunate.
The other thing I think that obviously they didn't have the budget to do this, but something like Dune, where
Mhm.
they shot the movie in 4K and then scanned it to film
Yeah.
and then rescanned in the film so it has that like organic look to
Mhm.
it. I think this movie sometimes had, I know, Dennis
He's
Villeneuve
pushing
is
up his
crazy.
glasses over here with one finger.
Yeah.
It's like,
But that was, it
actually.
made Dune look as if it were shot on
It-
film when
it
it,
did,
wasn't,
yeah.
you know, because there's the problem I think I had with some of the shots in this movie, not all of them, is it's extremely clean and digital looking. Like
Mhm.
there's
Mhm.
really good shots, but it looks almost, for me,
too good.
too good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and that I think helps the CG look
A
not
little,
great.
yeah, it looks
Like-
even more fake at that
Yeah,
you
point.
need-
And I
If
don't know if they should have put like a cheesy post film grain on the back or anything. I'm just saying, like, I feel like, especially movies that are like period pieces, they always feel better to me when they look like they were shot on film to some degree, instead of being like just crystal clear.
Yeah.
You know,
So,
but I agree with all the points you guys made of like, I like a lot of I thought the action was great.
yeah,
Like the scene with the, when the French trappers tie them to the tree
Yeah.
as bait or whatever, and everything's just covered in ash or whatever. I thought that was a really cool scene. I thought a lot of the choreography was good.
So I have complaints
Yeah.
about some of the fights, but it's really more plot related. So we're gonna leave that aside. I just want to go ahead and put it out here.
Well, the only thing I was gonna say, another reason I dinged the spectacle was like, even though I thought the setup for those fights was good,
yeah.
I think the execution on some of them wasn't great. It felt slow.
It was-
Some of the action kind of felt like it could have been
Snappier.
pepped up in editing, maybe,
Yeah.
or the way they shot it. It felt kind of like, I don't know. It just didn't feel as solid as other stuff.
So, just as a note there,
Yeah.
the one scene that was not that that I thought was absolutely fantastic was the one shot of basically her fighting all the Frenchmen in the camp whenever
Yeah.
she infiltrates it, and
Yeah.
basically she's trying to get all of her stuff back, and that is one singular take
Oh, it was very good. Yeah.
of just all of the Frenchmen just coming at her in all the different directions and everything. Oh man, it was just fantastic.
Yeah, I thought that was really well choreographed. And again, like you said, it was all one shot. Like that
Mhm.
was, again, give me a little bit of like some actual fake blood instead of the digital blood. But
Yep.
other than that,
Yeah.
really good. All right, let's go on to performance. Steven, what did you give performance?
Okay, so this is maybe a little harsh. I gave it a 7.
Okay.
So I do think Naru and Tabi,
Mhm.
so there are two main sister and brother
Yep.
set were good, especially given that they're pretty new-ish to this kind of having this kind of spotlight on them.
Yeah.
And I like the chemistry between them. I think it flowed well, and you
Yeah,
felt
they
like
felt like a brother and sister.
yeah, they felt like
Yeah.
they've been related, and he's kind of looked out for him, be like, hey, I want to support you, but also I'm still your big brother. These
yeah,
kind of
and
things.
I'm assuming that he was the chief.
No. They had the
Like,
chief was a different.
He was like the war party leader. or,
Yeah, like, so
I'm
he's like-
not sure on the
like-
exact term.
he's. I got the so this is where the performance complaint is really coming in.
Yeah.
Is basically everybody else felt like a prop. Like half of the tribe could have been cardboard cutouts for as much as they really got,
yeah.
and I don't know if we would have fundamentally changed anything.
I think the mother is the only person
Yeah, the only
of
other,
the
like-
tribe that really
Felt like a character.
Yeah.
yeah.
Was that her mom or was that her grandmother?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Either or.
Yeah,
It could have been.
sure.
Grant. I'm
Okay,
not
yeah.
sure. The matriarchal figure.
Yes.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, just didn't get anything, and that was kind of weird. And
Well, like it's a smaller scale,
Yeah.
is.
experience, and like normally that means you're only going to have really like 3 or 4 actual characters.
right, but you don't need other people to have complete arcs. They just need to seem like they're a human being who exists when they walk off screen, right?
Sure.
Which
I don't
didn't-
know. I mean, like you had the Rufio character that was he was just mean to her the whole time.
Was Rufio?
He had the red hair.
Wow.
That's the second I saw him on screen, I was like Rufio.
Rufio.
Well, when I saw him and he had the red mohawk, it was like, well, this is going to be the hothead dude. Yep,
Yep.
there he is.
Yep,
Yeah,
there
it
it
is.
is. You
It
know
was
exactly
just
what you're getting.
Stereotypical, archetypal stuff, and it just again for as good as the brother sister relationship felt,
Yeah.
in terms of this is a long-term relationship, and
Yeah.
they're at least their dad we know has been dead for a while,
Yeah.
so he's kind of been looking out. Like that felt good and real. They had a lot of room to work with in there, and it pays off a lot.
Yeah.
And everything else didn't. And that was kind of some of that's plot, but I think there was definitely it was hurt in the sense that no one else had much room to work with. So I'm gonna hand this off to someone else.
Ryan?
I'll jump in. I also gave it a 7.
Okay.
I think, Amber Midthunder did really good.
Yeah.
She is the star of the show in this movie. I agree. I think her brother,
Mhm.
Tabe, played by Dakota Beavers, did really good too, especially for knowing that it's his first film.
First film, yeah.
And I think the one thing that was cool that I saw was that Dan Trachtenberg, when he was auditioning Amber, he made her do like one scene in English, then he made her do the same scene in Comanche, and then he did this crazy thing. He's like, it just came to me. He's like, I want you to do that entire scene silently. Don't say anything.
Yep.
And
That's
she
cool.
acted with her eyes and her
That's-
expressions,
yeah.
and he was like hired. And
Yep.
so I think that comes through a lot, and because there's so many scenes in this movie
Mhm.
where she's not saying anything because she's sneaking around in the woods, or
Yep.
somebody's pursuing her.
And you still know exactly what's going on in
Yeah,
her mind.
she does a great job of conveying so much just with like expressions,
Yeah.
and things. So I think she carries it. I agree the same way that like none of the other Comanche and the tribe really get too much other
work
than like
with.
the bullies, if
Yeah.
you want to call them that,
Yeah,
who are
like,
just
well-
mean to
well,
her. Or
they
kind
I got one for you.
Yeah.
Name someone else in the tribe.
that's
Yeah, right. Like,
Yeah,
like, to
exactly.
give you
Did
something.
they even have names?
I don't know if
Right,
they even
they may not.
spoke names. Like it was a long time before I could even figure out
yeah.
the main characters' names because they just don't say each other's name. Which
Well, but
can
that's
fit.
the thing. Though, there's no reason for them
don't-
to
you
because they're a
don't
tribe.
need
Like
it.
they know who they're talking to.
no, you don't need it. And at least everyone was a distinct outfit, so you could say, okay, well, this isn't the dude who died yesterday
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like
And-
we're in Beauty and the Beast where Belle's walking down the street and everyone's saying her name.
Yeah. Well, we don't need that, but we need a little something.
I think that Amber Midthunder did great.
Yeah.
I think Coco the dog did great.
Oh,
Well, and that's another point to your silent
Yeah.
communication, right? Because she, the dog obviously can't really talk back, and she's
Right.
signing to it in a tense moment. So her ability there really, really plays through well.
Yeah. And I think Dane DeLiegro as the Predator did a really good job of just like conveying, his performance as like this
You know,
beastly
yeah.
alien, like
Yeah.
I think he did good for
Mhm.
that. Another quick thing about Coco the dog. So they rescued this dog for this movie
Mhm.
because it was a breed that was
that was
close
common.
enough to what
Yeah.
they would have had,
Yeah.
period correct. But they said the dog was a hot mess. And there was a lot of scenes where like they were just like, oh, please let the dog cooperate on this take. Please.
Yep.
Because it doesn't come across in the movie. Like
Yeah.
the dog's like great, but it was not a trained
Yeah, it wasn't a
movie
dog.
dog. It was just a
Yeah.
dog they rescued. So I think that's also awesome. But yeah, what did you give performance?
So
Andrew?
you basically just took my final point.
Oh,
which
my
was the
bad.
dog. I was a little bit more forgiving. I gave it an 8.
Okay.
But basically for the exact same reasons.
Yeah.
Naru or Amber Midthunder and Beavers were fantastic.
Yeah.
They really did have that on-screen chemistry, and you could definitely tell. Like whenever he was kind of explaining to her, especially right before he was going to die, he was like, "There's nothing I can do about this.
Yeah.
But I know that you can finish this." And like you really got that connection with them that I thought was just absolutely fantastic. The Frenchmen were emphatically Frenchmen from that time period.
They were a bit comedic.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't like the main French guy that would like basically survived the first encounter.
Oh yeah, the guy that can
yeah.
speak
Big dude.
English
Yeah.
/ Comanche.
Oh wait, translator? Or
No.
big dude?
Oh,
Oh,
he
you're talking
was
about the
fine.
big bearded guy.
I was so sad that he died.
The translator.
The translator,
Why?
because like he was
He had
a
some.
nice
He had
guy.
some redeeming qualities.
Yeah, he was
Some.
trying to be nice,
Yeah.
and then unfortunately he just got stepped on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I gave it an 8. I was just a little bit more forgiving, I think.
Yeah.
Just because like going into it, especially knowing that it's a Predator film, you don't need all of these extra characters to have arcs and
Sure.
and character moments that you know exactly.
I'm gonna come back to that. Not
That's
here.
fine.
Not here.
But I mean, but you know exactly what they're about.
Yeah.
Like they have to be the semi-antagonist against her for her to want to prove herself.
Well, and I think too, it again kind of gives some clarity as to the difference between the French and the Predator.
Yeah.
Of like, this guy is hunting for sport, and these guys are just over here
Just
killing bison, and they're, you know, like it gives you more of an understanding of the Predator almost, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to
Score?
score. Steven, what's your score?
No, you start this.
Oh,
one.
me?
Yeah.
I gave the score an 8.
Yeah.
I thought
Alright.
it was great.
It was fantastic.
The score was done by Sarah Schachner. I'm pronouncing that right. It's a lot of S's and C's and H's in there. She hasn't. I couldn't find
really
a
done
ton of
anything else.
credits for anything other than like video games. She did the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Well, now
She's
hold on. Now
done-
saying that, there are some video games out there with some fantastic scores.
Oh, I'm
so-
not talking down to it. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like in the film industry, she doesn't have a ton of credits. It's
right.
mostly like Assassin's Creed
Yeah.
Origins and things of that nature. I thought this soundtrack was great. I thought the
Yeah.
score completely fit like what's going on.
Yep.
And I've been listening to it on Spotify ever since I watched this movie. And like
it's already in my main playlist for
the bowed
soundtrack.
double bass,
yeah.
you know, like stuff they do is great. And I think it builds up a lot of the tension appropriately. And the way they use it is good. My only, I guess, complaint is that it's kind of one note to a degree. It's like,
It's all
interesting.
mostly the
it's all
same
mostly
kind of
the
tracks.
same kind
Yeah.
of tracks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in there.
Sure.
I also gave it an 8, and
Nice.
your comment about one note. So for me, you know, big sweeping landscape means a big sweeping score, right? And they nailed that.
Yeah.
And in a very, I'm gonna use this comparison a lot. Last of the Mohicans way.
Yeah.
Without sounding like a copycat or temp music, where they put
Promontory.
in there, and they're like, "Oh, we just love this." But it's funny you said that it's one note, because Last of the Mohicans, if you have the whole soundtrack in a playlist and you listen to it, you will have moments where you're like, "Am I listening to the same song twice?"
Yeah.
So they had the same issue there. So I think
Yeah.
that's a funny connection that we just kind of created out of nothing, I guess.
Well,
But-
you know, sometimes it's when you repeat a musical theme in different songs,
Yeah.
it gives you that like,
you can fall into that trap.
yeah, like you are being cohesive, but you're also being kind of,
Yeah, because
samey.
at that point it's not really a leitmotif anymore. It's just like this is the main theme, and we are just putting the main theme in every other thing.
Yeah.
But anime does that a lot, where they have the opening song, and then they just do the opening song with strings, or
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
opening song with horns.
right?
But they did do a good job of building tension in it as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the big broad landscape, and you have the orchestral pieces underneath it. They also built I don't want to call it one note, but kind of
It had a good foundation.
single instrument, like you
Yeah.
were talking about, the bass really carrying and building tension, right?
Yeah.
Andrew?
I also gave it an 8.
8's all around.
For
Consensus.
wow, almost the exact same reasons.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so the music in this film was just fantastic. It really does. There wasn't a lot of like, I'll say, shepherd tones where you don't, it's like
Right.
it's not going up and down at the same time. It's more of just they did a really good job with the tension, because as the audience, we know that the predator's there.
Yeah.
Our characters don't know that the predator's there, and the whole time we're just like, when is he going to show up?
Yeah.
When is he going to show up? Oh no, that's just the Leiden. When's he going to show? You know,
Yeah.
and those kind of moments are what really sells the score for the film. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to plot.
Yep.
I'll kick it off. I gave plot an 8.
Okay.
I think, again, we've mentioned before, it took the Predator franchise, which is predominantly terrible, back to its basics, but still did it in a fresh enough way to where it did not feel like a complete retread of the first movie. You know, I think just setting it when they did automatically gave it like an interesting twist where you could do some of the same kind of beats. But I like that this Predator, it's like his first time on Earth. I don't know if it's like technically in canon the Predator's first time to come to Earth, but like he's like trying to figure out
new at
this
whatever
is
this is.
prey, this is a predator, this is you know, like he's like working his way up the food chain of like, you know, trying to figure out what the big threats are. And then I think another thing for me I liked a lot about the plot was that like with Naru and her whole trajectory over the movie, they set precedences earlier that like she is really good at paying attention to things and learning, paying attention to things and learning. And she like, there's multiple like setups and payoffs throughout the movie that kind of escalate as it goes of like, she sees a thing, she figures it out, now she learns and she moves forward. And I think that's necessary for, obviously we're playing in fantasy land. There's a predator, you know, running around in the 1700s, right? But like, it helped even with the suspension of disbelief of like, oh, she just knows how to use a gun now. And it's like, well, if you've been watching and paying attention throughout the movie, she is picking up on stuff all over the place.
And she fails the first time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And even Tabe says to her at some point, he's like, you always see what I don't.
Yep.
You know, he's like, and she's constantly catching things of like, that's not a bear's footprint. What is this? And everybody's like, whatever, lady. And it's like, y'all listen to this lady. She's noticing everything.
That's actually, that's a problem. But you know, that's fine.
Yeah. But I gave plot an 8.
Yeah.
Andrew?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was a tad harsher. I gave it a 7.
Yeah.
So I have a bigger problem with the climax of the film where they're basically the way that she wins is based on the idea that the Predator himself does not understand how his own equipment works.
Well, I would say the argument is that he thinks his mask is a mile away, so it's not going to matter.
So that's the thing is like, because we don't know if the technology that he's using for his little head thing is just agnostic to distance.
Is it just
or
Bluetooth
if it is like a local Wi-Fi thing and then he can just basically, if he doesn't have the mask, he can still shoot the gun.
It's probably Bluetooth, so you get 20 foot away. It's not
so
going to
one couple of trees is never going to work.
Yeah,
but that's
you're
the thing.
done.
You're still kind of banking on the fact that the Predator makes a mistake and not makes a mistake by underestimating his enemy. He just makes a blatant mistake.
Yeah, that he made earlier in the film.
Yeah, that he's already made once.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel that her winning is not based on her merits and just the fact that he still would have won had she like messed up or had he just realized
he's just not an idiot.
Yeah. So with that,
I would say that like the trapping him in the mud.
Oh no, that's totally fine.
Which also is a very good subversion. When she got into the mud for the first time, I thought, oh, they're just going to copy the first movie.
Yep.
And they're like, nah, she washed off in a stream. Gotcha.
Yep.
But that did come back later when she trapped him in the quicksand.
Yeah,
so.
that doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah,
it was just the fact that the way that she killed him was with his own weapon that he should have already known how it worked.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and also, you know, we talked about like they do a good job throughout the movie of kind of building her up where, you know, she is earning these abilities and improving throughout.
Yeah, especially with like the hatchet throwing and everything.
There's an issue with that in its own world, and it's a little too Captain America, but that's okay.
Again, there's an alien running around.
We are definitely in Fantasyland.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then kind of the victory is almost unearned.
It felt a little hollow.
Because even if like he's trapped in mud, all he has to do is be like, "Oh, it's looking right at me. I better duck." And then she's still screwed. Like it's.
I feel like
so
that scene
reliant.
could have been cut slightly different.
Yeah.
Where the you know the spears or whatever they want to call it, he shoots out of his gun, happens a lot faster, and he doesn't have time to react.
Look around.
Or instead they had that comedic, roar, you know, almost like he looks.
Well, or it's set up behind him.
Right.
So that when he like engages the weapon and it's done from over his shoulder, he engages the weapon, and you see the 3 dots appear on the back of his head.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, because
Yeah.
now all she had to do, instead of trapping him in, a 1-by-1 square, is just trap him along this line. And now
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
guaranteed that it hits. And she just stands, like, if she stands where she can see the thing and he comes straight towards her, then it's just a clear line and he's done.
Yeah, because she's basically perpendicular to
Yeah.
it at that
Yeah.
point, and from that perspective, it's very hard to line that up with
Mhm.
actually where he needs to go. So, like, if it was in a straight line to where she's also kind of in danger if she messes up,
Right,
like,
yeah.
I totally would have.
But if it
forgiven
was a
it a little bit
straight
more.
line and it was directly behind him and it wasn't perfectly aligned, as soon as he holds it up, he sees the lights coming over his shoulder or something. Whereas from the side, you don't. It's not
Well-
in his field of view.
Yeah,
Well, but
Kind
the
of.
other trick is, once he shoots it, he looks and he sees it and he realizes. And I think it would be better from
For
an
him just
audience
to-
perspective where we know what's going to happen to him, but he doesn't.
yeah,
Right,
and he
agreed.
just
Yeah.
like I said, it felt a little hollow for that. Beyond that, like everything else, honestly felt very earned for
Yeah.
like her combat prowess, her methods of deduction of
Yeah.
trying to figure it out. Because like the biggest thing with these kind of films is you need example death.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you could tell like the second that she saw, the first guy die from the little red dots, she knows that the second that those red dots
Mhm.
pop up, no
Problem.
we don't have him, he has us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good line too. I
Yep.
was like, again, it showed that she's learning.
Yep.
Also, shout out to when the dog gave her the hatchet in the final fight. I was like,
Good,
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
companion.
Steven?
So I also gave it a 7.
Yeah.
A lot of similar reasons. I think it was good action fare. Where a lot of stuff was earned.
Yeah.
I can make some historical complaints or whatever, but again, we have a predator running around.
When her brother was fighting him in the camp with the horse,
Mhm.
oh man, that was so cool.
that was pretty cool.
So I do think within that, I'll throw out what I think is a missed opportunity where they could have, if they had had the play where it's the two of them, fighting the predator, and this is the climactic fight.
Yeah.
And something goes wrong, right? The plan doesn't work, and basically he sacrifices himself, mortal wound, to let it like bring the predator back in line or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it happens, and then you get the moment where he sees that his sister has done it, and like she has become, the hunter or
Yeah.
or whatever the achievement is, and he can be proud and then pass away.
hmm
I think because we had such good chemistry there, I think that maybe
Yeah.
would
That would have been a
more
lot better.
impactful.
Yeah.
So maybe a missed opportunity there. My biggest complaint is, again, that we could have had just a bunch of cardboard cutouts for
Yeah.
most, and it would have been okay. Because
Just got an
looking-
Elvis in the background.
yeah, just hanging out. Going back to the original Predator, while the other characters in the special ops team aren't, they don't have arcs, they're not fully developed characters. It felt like everyone there had history with each other, and
Yeah.
they all
Yeah.
knew what the other person was going to do. So as the individuals are eliminated, the team feels weaker as a whole, right?
Yeah.
You're like, well, this is the guy who makes the jokes, and oh, he's dead. Well, this is the dude, the tracker, and oh no, he's dead. It felt like there was
You're losing skill sets
Yeah.
as characters go away,
And-
where
and-
this one did not feel that way.
right. Yeah, all you were doing was getting rid of well, these dudes are keeping her from doing the right thing. Well, Predator took care of that problem. Well, it just got easier for her instead of it being harder.
Yeah.
And so that, like we had the mountain lion, again, cardboard cutouts. We had the mountain lion thing, and apparently the third dude who's with them just dies, but there's no name. Nobody brings up the fact that he died.
Yeah, everybody's
Like,
celebrating when they come back.
She's
And I'm
just
like,
fine. I mean, at the end of the
did
movie,
we want to mourn the other dude real quick before we celebrate that
Yeah.
he killed the mountain? No? Okay.
Yeah, like the end of the movie, we basically wiped out the entirety of the tribe's hunting population.
Well, and
it's
Maybe
it's
that
just
happened while she
achievement.
was unconscious. Maybe he brought her
Maybe.
back. Everybody mourned for an hour,
But-
and then he comes back with the line of like,
But I mean,
"Yeah."
like she watched this dude just like the mountain lion
Just get
just like
mauled.
yoinked him right in front of her. Like there
Yeah.
should have been some kind of trauma from that, or like maybe it makes her hesitate and she has to overcome. There's again, it just they were just like, hey, we need some more Indians, put them out there. All right, cool, they're dead. All right, let's go, let's get some Frenchmen. All right, they're dead, cool.
Well, I
Like, just a
think-
little more.
Part of it, though, I think is probably the balance of like how
That's
much screen time are you going to give
Which-
a moment like that versus really focusing on her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but the thing is, by doing that, by having it be, someone she knows, it can
Yeah.
be focused for her because it's now it's an emotional issue, or it's, well, she was going to rely on this person to help her with, and now they're gone. Now she has to improvise. Like it's not a question of, oh, we should focus on other people. It's a question of, by having other people, it puts more focus on her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
So-
I think one of my complaints would just be that we didn't really delve into like what the Comanche nation and life and everyday Comanche society was really like at this time.
Mhm.
Like we hint at it a little bit. And again, it's probably a screen time issue, but like,
well, saying that, I'm looking at the runtimes. Only an hour 40. It's actually a really fast movie.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
and that's the thing. Is
budget,
I don't
maybe.
think
Probably.
I don't think you need it to be a long film.
No.
But what I definitely kind of agreed that there was something a little lacking just in the substantial, I don't know, not a good word for it, but substantiality of like the actual
The surrounding substance.
Yeah.
How grounded and real you, because for the most part, it feels, I mean, again, for a giant alien running around invisible, it feels pretty grounded
it
and
feels
real.
pretty grounded.
Yeah.
The there's some distance problems I think that kind of happened where like it's all vague enough to where everything that's taking place could take place within relative walking
Like 2
distance.
square miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't
Yeah.
know.
You just don't know. But it definitely felt that there was a couple times where like she was like way out.
Oh, so that was the assumption. Yeah.
Yeah. But then like, you know, they're looking for her, but I don't know. There's a couple weird parts here and there, but I completely forgave it because I
Well,
was very entertained.
Speaking of, we were both ready to jump into that.
Transition whoosh.
Let's get into some entertainment scores.
Okay, Andrew, lead us
I
off.
gave it a 9.
Nice.
I actually like this one as much as the first Predator. Now, again, if I haven't seen any of the other ones, but
wow.
this one definitely fit the same kind of bill because I love
Yeah.
the quotation marks guerrilla warfare
Yeah.
kind of just very visceral and real kind of combat where you're not, you know, shooting machine guns and you know
Yeah.
trying. And now, granted, I mean, like that's kind of the whole point of the first Predator is that this team
It
of
doesn't work.
It
yeah,
doesn't
this
work.
team
Yeah,
of
you can have
special
all the
ops
guns in the
guys.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that they brought it and scaled it down
Mhm.
to where it felt realistic and as realistic as, you know, an alien predator coming in and killing
Well,
people.
you know,
Right.
yeah.
But so, you know, I've seen, you know, everyone, you know, kind of on the internet after this where they're like, oh, it'd be so cool to have the Predator in Japan or the
Oh, yeah.
Predator in some other random, like,
Mhm.
you know, old timey, you know, like
Settings.
Revolutionary War, you know, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. And I kind of agree. You know, it would be terrible just because you're kind of just reiterating what you've already
You're just
done.
kind of
No, no,
rehashing
no,
what this
no.
movie is.
But
maybe.
let's set that aside. I think we're gonna do a subtopic on that
Sure.
immediately after entertainment. But I do agree with some of that. I also gave it a 9 on entertainment.
Nice.
The Predator fights a freaking bear. Let's go,
And-
barehanded.
And he hand lifts it over his
Yeah.
head.
Like
Yeah.
if you ever needed a sense of scale, not just of the size of the Predator, the strength. Again, he just goes in, you know, with just claws on claws and just kills a bear.
Yeah.
And bench like deadlift bench presses or whatever. Like
Yeah.
that's awesome. You know, I mean, we can throw out, you know, kitschy, you know, small nitpicky complaints of, well, you know, it could have been a little better. But overall, going back through the Predator franchise filmography, this is at the top or up there. I think ultimately I put it just below the
Just
original.
because the first one was just so
Well,
Yeah. I
different.
mean, the first one's
Yeah, at this point in
Iconic.
life, we just know what to expect. You're never
Yeah,
going to get
yeah.
the same hit that the first one had
Correct.
because
No.
it was new.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's never going to be able to reach that. But for, you know, kind of working its way into the formula, kind of being true to, I don't want to call it the canon, but the idea behind it, I think it's probably the best example we've seen in a long time.
I can confirm that
Right?
after
Yeah.
rewatching a bunch of terrible Predator movies. So, like, Predator 2, what it messes up versus the first one is it doesn't understand, again, the Predator. It's just more action.
Yeah.
And the Predator's like, he is selective on who he kills, but way less selective.
Yeah.
And then, again, the solution to beating the Predator in Predator 2 is
Fire
I
more-
shoot and punch you
Fire
more.
more bullets.
Yeah, like instead of in the first ones, I got to outsmart this.
Yep.
Obviously, thing in Predators with Adrian Brody, it's the basic concept is a bunch of people are dropped on a planet, and they're being hunted like a wild game preserve by a bunch of predators.
Yeah.
And they don't know this. You know it because it's the title of the movie, which is another example of like if they could have hid that, you know, to where it wasn't called
buried the
Predators.
lead.
Wait, hold on.
It would have been a wild twist in the middle where it's Predators. You know,
I want to jump in on that
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Speaking
yeah.
of movie titles, pick something other than Prey. You don't have to say Predator, but just trying to Google this movie is freaking hard. There's a lot of stuff that's just named Prey.
Prey Film 2022.
Yeah. Like, you gotta be really
There's a lot of stuff
specific.
named. There's a video game named Prey. There's all sorts
Yeah.
of stuff that pops up. Yeah. But yeah, Predators, not great. It falls apart in the third act because again, it misses the central idea
Of
of
what
makes a Predator movie special.
Well, you got to cheat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing for the Predator. Well, like in Predators, for example, Adrian Brody smears his body in mud with no intel that would help him.
Yeah, he just
Yeah,
does it.
no
Any point.
reason for
He
it.
just
Yeah.
does it.
He just does it because
And
it's a Predator movie.
Because, so there's a lot of stuff that happens like that. Aliens versus Predator is terrible. Alien versus Predator Requiem is somehow worse. The Predator is, again, bad because, like, just this is spoiler for the worst movie in the world. Don't watch it. The basic idea is one predator is trying to help humans stop global warming, and a super predator is after the rest of them. So they have to team up with global warming predator, eco predator, and everyone else has to like try to stop super predator. And it's like,
wow.
no.
what are y'all doing? Like on paper, that sounds terrible. Go away.
Like, what kind of fever dream?
Yeah. And again, reshoots. And so like this
Yeah.
is easily the second best Predator movie. I gave it an 8 on entertainment. I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that kind of brought it down for me again was there's just a few moments where I feel like, man, what if they had shot this whole movie in Comanche? That would have been so cool.
That was
Yeah.
my next thing. So I am a big proponent of using the original language that it was like
That
that
you're
they would be
supposed to be.
speaking.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. I think that most American audiences, I understand why they do it.
Yeah.
Because English speaking world for the most part,
Mhm.
and if you're making a big, Hollywood blockbuster, you need it to be English. I get it. I think it's stupid. And
Yeah.
I think it absolutely would have been better had they basically only spoken in Comanche the entire time and
Yeah.
just have it subtitled on the things that we needed to understand.
And to its credit, there is a Comanche dub
There is.
version, and which is, I think, historically the very first movie to ever be fully dubbed in Comanche.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, available. So
Yeah.
like they're making headway there, but I tried to watch it, and again, it's a dub. It's
Yeah.
all their mouths are still moving, saying the English words, but you hear the Comanche
Yep.
version.
Yeah.
So if you want to check out the Comanche version, you can. That kind of stuff bugs me. Like,
Mhm.
unless I'm watching like an old Jackie Chan movie, I can handle some dub here and there just because it's comedy and
Yeah.
things are fun.
Yeah.
I generally prefer subtitles. I want things to be in their native language. It
Yeah.
made a weird scene where like this Frenchman comes over and he's like, "I speak your language," and he says it in English.
English,
And
yeah.
you're like, okay,
Yeah, and there's just some weird stuff here and there that
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I wish that it would have been,
Yeah.
but that is so much more of a personal,
Yeah.
kind
I
of
think
thing.
for me, the reason I enjoyed this movie so much is because it is punching way above its weight class. This movie has no right to be as good as it is.
Yeah.
There are no big name actors in this movie.
Yep.
It's not like they got some huge director to do this. It's not like they got the writer of some amazing
Yeah.
thing to do this. Like all the people in this movie are essentially scrappy startups, if you
Yep.
think about it. And they
Yeah.
made something that was, I think,
It was
fantastic.
Yeah, great.
Like I enjoyed it immensely. My only knocks are probably things that could have been fixed if they had a little more budget.
Yeah.
Or a little more
Yeah.
time, maybe.
So speaking of things that could be fantastic, let's just to get us moving along on the way out. What would be an alternate timeline reality setting you would want a Predator movie in?
Feudal Japan with samurais.
I know.
I mean, that's
we
all
already-
three of our answers,
No,
obviously.
no. I have a different one.
I was going straight to feudal Japan samurai. Like there's
Oh,
no
God,
other.
that'd be
Yeah.
so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that would be pretty awesome.
If I had to think of another one, then let me think here.
well, you think?
Yeah,
I've
you go
got
ahead.
one. So you know what setting I want?
What's that?
I want pirates.
Oh,
Where it's like
okay.
the pirates come back to an island because it's haunted, but it's where the big bad named captain who's dead buried the treasure.
Uh-huh.
So they all want
Ooh,
the
okay.
treasure, but the predator has returned to the island to hunt again. So at some point they have to figure out, do we band together to deal with this,
Yep.
or am I going to double cross you for the treasure?
Yeah.
And also it's big bad, like, because you could go real horror because this is, they don't have the technology, they don't have the understanding, and it's just murder in the dark kind of thing.
Oh man, that'd be really
Like,
cool.
I think like that
Yeah.
would be cool,
That
and
would
also
be good.
it's a return to a jungle setting. You do like Caribbean. So yeah, I think that would be really cool too.
so. So this is just Predator goes to the Caribbean. Then we
Yeah,
have,
get
we
him
have
tan, you know.
Predator goes to Kyoto.
all the music is just steel drums.
Maybe a little bit of that. Maybe not so much that. But
All right. So what are yours? What's your
Man,
Predator
I mean,
goes?
like to set it during the Vietnam War might be kind of crazy. Like it would be,
Yeah.
you'd have to try not to do too close to the original
Yeah.
Predator.
Yeah, you're risking the jungle comparisons there.
But you are in the jungle. Maybe you could make it somehow about, more of a commentary on the Vietnam War or
Yeah.
something, like, make it like that.
I mean, dropping him into any major I
don't
well,
know
see, I
if
think
that
the
would
big
work very
battle,
well.
yeah, would
Well,
be kind of weird.
I'm not saying like a big battle, but like what if, we're talking, the North African campaign, but there's a small group of British soldiers who are dealing with this other problem to the side that nobody ever knew about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Like,
think
like
it's
and
just,
he doesn't have to run across, go, storm the beaches of Normandy or something. You don't
Yeah.
need that. You just need, but even like, the paratroopers dropped behind the line for Normandy, and like this one division ran into a different problem that wasn't the Nazis,
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some other, like, Revolutionary War could be kind of fun, but it's kind of along the same lines.
Yeah, you're getting into the same
yeah.
technology era of 1919.
Yeah.
So
You could do like go even further and do like
I think
medieval
medieval times might be
Egyptian
fun.
could be fun.
Oh,
that,
yeah.
that could be a cool setting. Yeah,
I think the problem though is that, like, the Predator needs a lot of trees. He doesn't need to be in a big
Yeah.
wide open area.
No,
Well,
just
but
sand,
if you're
man.
right by the Nile, and
Yeah.
you have vegetation.
Yeah.
But medieval times,
Medieval
night,
medieval-
yeah.
and that's just
No, I
your-
mean, like, he goes to a restaurant, the medieval times, and he just like hunts people. Yeah, no.
they come out for
He's
the
jousting
they come out
on the
for
horses.
the joust, and
Huzzah!
he's like up in the stands with his turkey
Yeah.
leg, like.
See,
He eats the turkey.
like, so we obviously joke here, but at some point, I would feel like it's one of those things where, like, clearly this was a very good, successful film, right? And you're gonna have some Hollywood exec that's like, oh, it'd
can
be
make
really
money.
cool.
Yeah.
We could make money off of
Yeah.
this, and we're gonna do Japan next time.
Well, it just-
Yeah.
And it feels so derivative that I would still go watch it because
yeah.
Sure. But let's bring up a quick thing about the end credits. Did you see the little stinger at the end?
little animations.
So at the end, there's an animation, right?
oh,
that kind of
like
recaps.
in the actual, and it
Yeah.
shows them coming back.
It shows the Predator ships presumably coming back.
Mhm.
Like, I guess that opens it up for a sequel, like a direct sequel,
yeah,
like a
Yeah.
Prey 2
I don't
type
want
thing.
that.
well,
I don't know that we need it.
They gave us the Predator 2 pistol
Yeah.
in Prey, and somehow that has to get back into the Predator's hands to
Right.
show up at the end of Predator 2.
So
And-
by transitive property, that means either they come back and kill everyone and take the
Which
take
is
the pistol.
like just total depression of how the movie really ended is everyone died. Oh, thanks guys, we didn't need that.
yeah.
Or it's a different group of Predators and they're just really good at, like, stealing stuff.
Well,
they just
no,
it's a heist.
or they
they
came down
can't kill
and-
things. They just want the trophies.
Yeah.
Or it's possible that they came down and they picked up their dude and then they're like, hey, thank you for showing us that you are better than him.
Well, that
We
is,
want the gun.
We need
So-
some gas money.
So you
we
haven't
gotta hawk this
So you
thing.
haven't seen it, but that is Predator 2's ending. Another group of predators comes to collect the body, and basically recognizing Danny Glover, right,
Mhm.
as a superior hunter, they give him the pistol as his trophy. Like, they're not going to let you keep the head as evidence they exist, but they're going to give you something as like, well, we matched with you and you
Yeah.
bested us, and this is an acknowledgement. So that's why it's so weird that the pistol
just is there.
is just, well, it just shows up, and it's like, well, cool, you tied this to the universe, but now it's like, dude, did they just wipe all these people out, or like, what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure they left it kind of open for the simple fact that they didn't know if they were going to get a sequel or
Yeah.
anything, which it was the biggest debut in Hulu history.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
like, I would say, even though you don't have box office numbers, it's probably
It probably
It's
very
gonna
successful.
happen.
a success. I mean, I think the issue is that, like, if you look at a movie like the first Predator,
Yeah.
it didn't really need a sequel.
No.
If you look at the first
it's a complete
Alien,
story.
it didn't really need a sequel. Like, those movies
But
You
the,
just-
the
arguably
money
yeah,
were,
needed a
like,
sequel.
very self-contained and very good
Mm.
by themselves.
Yeah.
And so really any of these sequels are unnecessary from that level. This one, my fear would be if they can get the same people back and they have a solid idea of what to do in a sequel to this, I would
Mhm.
watch it. But my fear would be that, like, yeah, the studio would get too involved and now they want to do a theatrical
Yeah.
release and they
Yeah.
like
I-
throw some big name actors in there that don't need to be in there, and then it wouldn't have the same scrappy spirit that this
Yeah.
one does.
Yeah. If they're gonna do a sequel, not a sequel, but another Predator soon, I would want to see different timeline, right? Just
Yeah.
keep putting him in different settings and give us some interesting interactions, and let's just go from there. Right?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. Thanks for listening to Spoilers Intended. Remember, if you like what you heard and you want more, you can check us out at spoilersintendedpodcast.com. From there, you can support us on Patreon for as little as $1. You can be a part of our Discord server and join in on the conversation. You can check us out on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, Facebook. All the links are right there on the website. And until next time, I'm Ryan.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Steven.
And as always, every spoiler was intended.